Today we're going to do a bit more of an activating sequence than the previous one. I would probably call this like a power sequence. Um, so no props or equipment is needed. I do have like a thick book here that I'll use as a block perhaps. So you might want to have that, or like a strap or a t-shirt or belt or something if you want to have a strap. Okay, so this time let's begin in a shell pose or a child's pose. So coming to the knees, you can bring your big toes together, and then knees can be far apart. Oh my goodness, there's a nice bunch of cat hair. Knees can be far apart or together. Just experimenting with the different sensation, letting the belly fall between the thighs or on top, bringing your chin or forehead to the ground, stretching the fingers forward here, and then walking the hands over to the right, maybe stacking left hand on top of right hand. Thinking about the space between your left shoulder and left hip. Drawing inhales through your nostrils and exhales through your nostrils. And we'll come back through center on an inhale. Moving to the other side, maybe right hand stacks over top of left. Tracing the breath through your nose into your rib cage, maybe all the way to your belly. And then coming back to center, taking a moment to readjust the spine, the shoulders, the hips. And then on an inhale, coming forward to hands and knees. Again, anytime we're on hands and knees, you can also be on fists or forearms. So lots of options with the shoulders and wrists. And then we'll move into some cat-cow. So for cat on inhales, we're arching the back, bringing shoulder blades together, gaze and sit bones come to the ceiling. And on exhales, rounding your spine. Gaze can come between thighs or towards the navel. And on inhales, letting your belly drop. And on exhales, pulling the belly button towards the spine. Maybe thinking about the movement originating in your lower spine. Just allowing your breath to inform your movement here. Adding any movements that feel natural, like these side bends, maybe looking over each shoulder. Creating circles with the entire torso. And moving like that as long as you'd like. When you're ready, we'll tuck toes, coming to downward dog. So hands are planted at least shoulder width apart, quite wide. And then playing with your stance here, you could bring the feet closer, further away. And in downward dog, we want to exaggerate the curve of the spine. So bending the knees to do that, sending sit bones to the ceiling. And then taking your time to straighten each leg, bending the opposite. Maybe swaying the hips side to side. And then we'll lift the right leg up into the air, keeping the hips square at first, and then bending the knee and opening the top hip. Noticing how that shift from the squaring to the opening might feel. Then on an inhale, squaring again. Exhale, pulling that knee towards your nose, rounding the back like in cat pose, and then planting the foot all the way through. You could lower the knee right away here, or keep the knee off the ground, planting left hand under the shoulder, opening your body to the right into an open twist. It could be on fist. On an inhale, we'll unwind, sending the hips back towards the back heel just for a brief kind of counter stretch. Front toes can face the ceiling. And replanting that front foot and stepping the back foot in, enough so that you can plant the entire foot on the floor at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to grab my block here, place it under my left hand. Inhale, extend the spine. Exhale, fold. We're in a pyramid shape now. So both feet are planted on the ground. Front toes pointing directly forward, back toes pointing at 45 degrees. Tucking right hip underneath you, letting the left hip sink forward. You can even put your right thumb in your hip crease, maybe pulling that hip back. And then on an inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, planting both hands on the floor or props if you've got them. Just bringing the back foot to meet the front. We'll inhale, halfway lift, hands to thighs or shins. Exhale, fold. And then inhale, planting the hands and then stepping the opposite foot back so the right foot steps all the way back. Again, could lower the knee right away or playing with the knee off the ground. Planting right hand underneath right shoulder, opening body to the left. Left arm can stay on your low back, feeling the hips pressing forward, or can reach up. Maybe circles with the top arm. And on an inhale, we'll untwist, lowering the back knee. Oh my goodness. Sending the hips towards the back heel. Front toes might point up towards the ceiling. Maybe noticing a stretch through the back of the left leg. And then we'll replant that left foot, tucking back toes and stepping the back right foot in so that I can plant the entire foot on the ground at about a 45-degree angle. I'll grab my book here to plant under my right shoulder. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, folding over extended left leg. And then I can take my left hip, or pardon me, my left thumb into my hip crease, maybe pulling that hip underneath, letting right hip melt forward. And then on an inhale, halfway lift, exhale, fold, planting front foot and hands, bringing the back foot to meet the front. 2 fists between the feet. On an inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Could have hands on elbows, letting your neck dangle. Could be clasping hands behind back, letting arms fall away from your body. And then again here, maybe you're staying symmetrical, or you could bring your body to the right, bending your right knee, maybe straightening the left knee. Coming back to center, and coming over to the left, bending left knee, straightening right. And then coming back to center, releasing any binds that you have. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. And on our inhale, we'll press down into the 3 points of each foot, the heel, pinky toe, and big toe mound, soft bend in the knees. And roll all the way up, arms up, gaze might follow. And then releasing the arms into mountain pose. Pulling belly to spine, adjusting the pelvic bowl, And we'll move through 3 sun salutations, moving at your own speed, following the path of your breath. On an inhale, arms up, gaze might follow. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, planting the hands. Here you can step back into high plank and then lower as you exhale, or you could jump back into low plank, exhaling as you jump back. Inhale, back bend, cobra or up dog. Exhale, down dog. You can always take a shell or child shape in this sequence as well in place of the down dog. Pressing into the hands and the feet. Imagining the shoulders moving down and away from the ears, away from each other on the spine, like your armpits could face each other. And then at the bottom of an exhale, we'll look forward. You could step forward or hop. On an inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale all the way up. And exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, planting the hands, stepping into high plank or hopping into low plank. Exhaling as you lower, and inhale into upward facing dog. And exhale into downward facing dog or a shell or child's pose. Again, taking a few breaths here, reconnecting with the mind, the body. If the mind is wandering, using your breath to just bring it back to what's happening right now. And at the bottom of an exhale, looking forward, you could hop or step. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, pressing into the feet, we rise all the way up. And exhale, we'll do this again. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold, planting the hands, stepping back into high plank or hopping back into low plank. Exhaling as you lower. Inhale into upward facing dog or cobra. And exhale into downward facing dog or child's pose or shell pose. And then we'll just stay here for a moment. Breathing in, breathing out. And then we'll lift the left leg up, keeping that hip squared to the ground at first. Pulling belly button to spine. And then opening the knee. Pardon me, bending the knee, opening the hips. Realizing we forgot this side in the warm-up. So we'll just do a little sequence right now with it. And then squaring the hips, pulling the knee to the nose, and then on an exhale, planting that foot between the hands. We'll again repeat the warm-up sequence, but just briefly and keeping the back knee off the ground, planting right hand under shoulder, opening chest, exhale, unwind. You can bring your hips back, maybe tilting the front toes to the ceiling, and then replanting front foot, bringing the back foot to meet it. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, planting the hands, stepping the left foot back, planting left hand under left shoulder, opening body to the right. And exhale, unwind. Could send the hips back, bringing the front toes to the ceiling, and then replanting the front foot and stepping into the forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Pressing into your feet, rising all the way up. And exhale, releasing the hands. We'll move into a twisted chair pose. So bringing the feet together here, and then bending the knees, sinking the hips down, Hands can come out at shoulder height. Maybe your gaze is to your fingertips. And then we'll bring the hands to the heart or the hips. And then on an exhale, turning your torso to your right. You could stay with the left hand on the outside edge of the right knee, or you could hook the left elbow around the right knee. If you're hooking, pressing the hands into a prayer position. When your left knee will want to sink forward, so bringing that back, using the tension between your knee and elbow to open across the chest. And inhale, unwind, fold forward on your exhale. Inhale, halfway lift, exhale, fold. Then we'll move right into the other side, sinking the hips, lifting the hands, taking a moment in your chair, and then bringing the hands to heart or hips, turning torso the opposite to your left. Could stay with right hand outside, right, left knee, or you could hook your right elbow, pulling belly button to spine, pulling right knee back, pressing into the three corners of each foot, pressing into the hands or fists here to use that tension to open through the chest. And on an inhale, unwind, fold forward. You could separate your feet here if you'd rather have them hip width. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, roll all the way up with slightly bent knees. Exhale into mountain pose. Could take a moment here, could step right to down dog, or you could move with me through a flow. Inhale, arms up, gaze up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the hands and step back to high plank or hop back to low plank. Exhale as you lower. Inhale into cobra or upward facing dog. And exhale into child's pose or downward facing dog. Taking a few breaths here, reconnecting to body and mind. And then we'll plant into the left foot, lifting the right leg, opening the hip, bending the knee. Maybe you like to take some circles here at the hip. Being careful, moving slowly. And then on an exhale, we'll bring this right knee to our right elbow in a high push-up position, pulling belly button to spine, rounding upper back like cat. Inhale, three-legged downward dog, hips square to the floor. Exhale, pulling knee across the body to the left elbow, does not have to touch. Inhale, back to three-leg downward dog. And exhale, pulling knee to nose, rounding the spine, pulling belly button to spine. And then planting that foot through and between your hands. Whew. Spin your back heel to the floor. So we're setting up for warrior two here. Front toes facing directly forward. Back toes can be facing at a 90-degree angle with the front foot bisecting or tilted more towards the top corner of your mat. When you've got your feet planted, your feet can be as wide as you'd like. Inhale to warrior two. Adjusting the clothing, adjusting the hips. Planting into the three corners of the front foot, the outside edge of the back foot, letting this left hip just melt slightly forward naturally while you externally rotate the right hip. Could be engaging the glutes to do so. And then we'll reverse the warrior, so flipping front hand to ceiling, hinging body back. Back hand can land on your thigh or wrapping around low back. Inhaling space into the right side of the body. Exhale back to warrior two. Then we'll move right into side angle. So inhale, moving the hand to the front, hips to the back. Front elbow lands on bent front knee. Top arm can be on the hip or reaching to the ceiling or reaching over your ear. Can stay here or walking the front hand inside the bent front knee. And then working with your own body for staying here or playing with a half bind, bending the top arm, maybe reaching for that thigh, opposite thigh, or reaching under the bent thigh, seeing if you can clasp the hands. You could also have a towel in this hand to lengthen your arms. And then on an inhale, we'll all look down. Come back to warrior two. And then straighten the front knee. We're going to move into triangle pose. So you can adjust your stance, bringing the front foot towards your back or the back foot towards your front. And then similar setup to, exact same setup as side angle pose, pressing into the three corners of both feet, keeping a micro bend in the front knee. Inhale, sending hand to the front, hips to the back, and exhale, hinging at the hips. I'm gonna grab my block as well to just bring the floor a bit closer to me here in our triangle pose. Opening across the chest, bringing shoulder blades towards each other on the spine. And we'll move into our half moon pose. So bringing top hand to hip, gaze forward, hand on block or ground can come to the outside edge and wide of the front foot. And then maybe you're just playing with balance here, experimenting with what it feels like to bring your body weight into the front foot, or maybe you're lifting the back leg to hip height. Wherever you are fixing your gaze, you can extend the top arm. Many of us need to move our foot a bit closer to the left side of the mat. Could bend your knee, reaching for a bind. And then bringing gaze down if it's not already, releasing any binds. Coming back to warrior two. And then we'll turn all 10 toes towards the long edge of the mat. Pressing into the outside edge of both feet. Coming into a wide leg forward fold. So hands can stay at hips, could come to the ground or blocks, could be clasped at low back, opening the shoulders. Maybe bending into each knee or maybe finding stillness. And then inhale, we'll bend the knees, bringing hands to hips. And then exhale, fold. Walking hands to the front of the mat, turning on your toes. And then stepping back to downward dog or three-legged downward dog. You could just remain in down dog, come to child's pose, or do a 3 or 4 leg flow. And then I'm just gonna switch the direction so I'm not aiming my backside at you. And then from down dog, where we'll all meet, we'll lift the left leg now. First squaring the hips and then bending the knee, opening the left hip. Maybe circles originating at the hip. Careful not to make circles originating at the knee. And then on an exhale, re-squaring the hips to the ground. Taking a moment, inhale and exhale, drawing left knee to left elbow in this high push-up position. Inhale, three-leg downward dog. Exhale, left knee to right elbow. Inhale, three-leg downward dog. Exhale, left knee to nose, rounding the back. And then planting your left foot between your feet, spinning the back heel onto the ground, setting up your feet for warrior two, and then spinning the arms up. Adjusting through the hips, engaging the left glute, letting right hip melt forward, deeply bending into front knee, and externally rotating. Inhale, flipping front hand, hinging the body back to exalted warrior. And on an inhale, coming back to warrior two. And exhale, moving into a side angle pose. Pressing into the outside edge of your back foot. Maybe walking front hand inside the bent front knee. And releasing any binds, looking down, pressing into the feet, coming back up to warrior two. Then moving into triangle pose so you can shorten your stance. I'm gonna grab my book because I know I will need it here. So readjusting my feet, hips to the back, arm to the front, hinge at the hips. Left hand lands to left shin, or a block, or a book. Maybe staying here, maybe bringing this shape into a balancing shape. Gaze comes down, top hand to hip. Front hand comes wide to the outside of the front foot. Maybe just staying here, or maybe bringing that back foot to hip height. Good, bend your top leg, reaching for a bind. If you've got a bind, then you're kicking the foot into your hands. Releasing any binds, releasing the foot, stepping back to warrior two, turning all 10 toes to the long edge of the mat here. We'll move into our second set of wide leg forward fold, pressing into the outside edge of both feet, pulling your belly button to spine, hinging at the hips. Could be having your first two fingers wrapping around your toes or holding onto the outside edge of your feet. Could be opening your chest. Inhale, release any binds. Bring hands to hips, bending the knees. Exhale, folding. And then walking your hands to the top of your mat, around your left foot. You could simply step back to downward dog. Could step back to three-leg dog, do a 3 or 4 leg flow, or come to child or shell shape. And again from here, we'll lift our right leg, bringing it to the nose, arching the top back, planting the right foot, setting the feet hip width apart here, and coming up into a crescent lunge. Back knee can be on the floor or off the floor. Bringing hands to hips, or at heart, hinging forward, and then twisting into an open twist or closed twist. Inhale, unwinding, both hands inside front foot, lower back knee, walk front foot wide. And then bend back knee. Maybe you're reaching for a bind. Maybe you're just gently nudging that right knee off to the side, coming to the outside edge of the front foot. Could be bending the back knee. Could be reaching for a bind. Inhale, untwist. Walking front foot to frame. Front hands to frame front foot. Tucking back toes. Stepping back to down dog. Three-leg down dog. Flow, child's pose. And we'll repeat that on the other side, lifting left leg. Keeping hips squared to the mat, pulling left knee to nose, and then planting left foot. Back knee could be lowered or off the ground. Feet are hip width apart or wider. And then coming up into crescent lunge when you've got your foundation. Hands to hips or to heart. Turning torso to the left. Could simply lower the right hand into an open twist or hooking the elbow for a binded twist. Really engaging the back right leg, engaging the quad muscles, pulling the heel to stack above the toe mound. Inhale, untwist, hands inside front knee, lower back knee. Walking front foot out to the side. And then maybe twisting, gently nudging the left knee, coming to the outside edge of left foot. Staying right here, bending back knee. Maybe reaching to the outside edge of the foot or ankle. And inhale, untwisting, reframing the front foot with your hands, tucking back toes. Could come back into a child's pose or a 3-leg or 4-leg downward dog. Do a flow, your choice. We'll meet in downward dog. And then coming forward into a high plank position. You can lower onto your knees right away. Moving into side plank here. So bringing the left hand closer to the middle of the mat. And then coming into our plank position. If your knees are lowered, you could kick your left foot out like a kickstand, extending the right leg down the mat. So a supported side plank. You could stack your feet. If you're working to lift the top leg, you can bend both feet a lot and plant your bottom left foot on the ground at an angle towards the back corner of your mat. And then you can think about pressing into that foot, maybe straightening the bottom leg, maybe reaching for the top knee or foot. And then we'll all let our right foot drop behind us, opening the chest to the ceiling, maybe straightening the left leg into a wild thing. And on an inhale, coming back to downward dog, moving through a flow or coming to child's pose or down dog. we'll move towards side plank on the other side. I won't switch sides so you can see from the back. And inhale, coming into high plank. Knees can be on or off the ground. And then if you're setting up for supported side plank, right knee stays on the ground, left foot extends. You could stack the feet. If you're working to lift the top foot, again, bending both knees, angling the right foot to the back corner of the mat, pressing into that foot. And then dropping the top left foot behind us, spinning the chest and hips to face the ceiling for Wild Thing. You can come to the outside edge of the right foot. And on an inhale, rolling over the shoulder. Could move through a flow, stay in down dog or child or shell shape. And now we'll come forward to be on the front of our bodies for some back bends. So you can be in a high push-up and just lower all the way down. Letting hands rest for a moment. And then we'll come into locust. So pressing the hands into the ground or clasping the hands at the low back. Pressing the pelvis into the ground, and then using whatever your hands are pressing into to pull the shoulders together on your spine. On an inhale, you can peel your chest, head, shoulders off the mat. Maybe your arms and feet lift, so you're using the muscles of your back to hold yourself up. Exhale, release. Do one more from our bellies. So you could repeat that one, or you could bend both knees, pulling shoulders back, reaching for outside edge of ankles or feet, or inside edge. It doesn't really matter in this shape. And then on an inhale, either kicking into the hands or pressing the hands into the ground. Exhale, releasing. You can stay lying on the front of your body, or you can press into shallow child's shape. And we'll move into pigeon or deer. So you can come through downward dog if you'd like, or just from your knees. Bringing right knee to right wrist. For deer shape, both knees are bent at 90. Hips are facing forward, and then you can experiment with hinging forward. Pigeon, back leg is straight. You can also do this on your back for figure 4 with right ankle crossing over left thigh. Hinging forward if that feels okay. Inhale, pressing up, and then switching sides. So you can just roll to one hip, or you could press through a downward dog, flow, or child's pose. Again, deer, or pigeon, or figure 4 from the back. Can you feel even, pressing up, swinging the legs around, or moving through a flow or down dog and hopping through or stepping through to come to the back. 2 back bends here, so can be bridge, where you're pressing into the 3 corners of each foot. You can set your hands up so that you're grazing the backs of your heels, or you could set up with more space. Just feeling out what feels right for your body. If you're coming into bridge, pulling your shoulder blades together on your spine, pressing into the 3 corners of the feet. If you're starting to move through wheel, there's some steps you can take. So really pressing into the 3 corners of both feet, engaging the muscles of the legs. Careful not to look side to side with your neck in this position. Then you can pull your hands underneath your pelvis like a shelf, practicing holding that, maybe practicing bringing the weight off the hands. You can bring hands by your shoulders quite wide again, hugging elbows and knees in, coming to the crown of the head first, adjusting hands and feet, and then maybe pressing into hands and feet and beginning to straighten the elbows and knees. Being always very careful with the back, the spine. And then you can lower all the way. Or if you're practicing wheel, you could come just to the crown of your head, readjusting feet and hands before pressing up. Thinking, pressing your chest to the wall behind you. Engaging the quads. And lowering down when you're ready. You could walk your feet mat width apart, letting the knees come together. Maybe bringing your wrists under your sit bones, letting knees wash side to side. Could also have your feet together, letting knees fall wide. And pulling your knees together, hugging knees into chest. Maybe rocking side to side. And we'll extend the left leg down the mat, pulling right knee across the body into a spinal stretch. Extending right arm, maybe gaze comes over that arm. And inhale, unwinding. Could extend both feet down the mat or hug both knees into chest. And extending the right leg down the mat. Pulling left knee across the body. Inhale, coming back to center, readjusting spine and hips, and taking any final movements or shapes here before we move into our rest. So maybe hugging knees into chest, or holding on to the outside edge of both feet. We're extending both feet to the ceiling. And when you're ready, coming into your rest, you can be on your back or your side. Any position that you can just find a few minutes of feeling supported and letting go of your breath control. You can stay here as long as you'd like, as long as you have. If when you're ready, taking a big breath, maybe sighing it out. Wiggling fingers and toes, stretching the spine or the hips or the neck. If you're coming to a seat, you can roll to one side. Taking a moment here. Or pushing up into a seat when you're ready. And I just like to close practice by acknowledging this ancient ritual from South Asia and parts of Africa that I have now access to in 2024 on the unceded and stolen lands of the Coast Salish people. Just honoring this practice and this land, neither of which is in my ancestry, both of which I benefit from. Just sealing the practice with a deep breath and an exhale. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions or comments, just let me know and hope to see you again.